extension requires defense, and if you care about your community, you'll join us as well. And I think in this way, you feed into this cycle of violence.
So is Antifa the it's made out to be? It does try to offer justification for acts of violence and destruction of property. But as we've learned, the use of this tactic has been exaggerated, and when it comes to extreme violence, this is far more common on the fascist far right. But its forceful attempts to shut down set a precedent that worries America. Though the biggest danger posed by Antifa is to the causes it supports.
Hi, I'm Maureen Holloway. Spring is
You do that every fucking time I blink? Really?
The inquiry was presented by me, Tanya Beckett.
You guys just won't let nothing go. You're pathological. That's what we're talking about. Pathology.
This is the BBC World Service, looking at how COVID is changing the work landscape for women in the United States.
We had no idea if we'd survive. I'm Minna Tawfiq, and I'll be discovering how some female entrepreneurs have restructured their businesses to adapt to the times. Fast forward quickly to today, we're very thankful that we were able to survive and actually grow from it. I'll also be asking if employers should be offering more flexible work arrangements.
The longer we wait to act, the harder it will be to bring these millions of women back into the workforce.
And it's the crisis.
We're talking about black
news this hour. If you are
people.
tired now from losing that 1 hour of sleep this morning, just wait. Experts warn the move into daylight saving time takes a few days to get used to.
Experts warn.
The Grammys are
You have daylight savings experts now.
Going to be another Zoom fest. This is what you want to be watching. A preview of music's biggest night is just ahead.
Oh.
Toronto is shutting down its vaccine booking portal tonight to make way for the province's site.
The Toronto Maple Leafs taking time out before their game to honor first responders and recognize the work they do to keep communities safe.
The Winnipeg Jets take the rubber match against the Toronto Maple Leafs as the Raptors lose to the Hornets in Charlotte. Sports at 45.
And coming up in business, Big Tobacco teams up with Canadian Cannabis. We'll hear from the CEO of Organigram Holdings about the multi-million-dollar investment from BAT.
60 News Time, 8:31.
It's time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Keeping an eye on the Sunday drive, here's Colleen Donahue.
This report's brought to you by New Life Fertility Center. We don't have any issues to report on any of the major routes throughout the GTA this morning. No collisions, no construction, no delays, and not even a stalled vehicle. So everything's moving up to speed. If you drive past something, though, that I should know about and I'm not mentioning, give me a call at star 680. New Life Fertility is now open in Toronto, and to celebrate, they're offering their full IVF package for only $8,800 until May 15th. Register at newlifefertility.com. Now the forecast, here is Denise Andriacci. Well, it's a sunny day, but cold
Because when people get desperate, the next instinct is reproduction. That's all that there's no logical marketing reason to do what they do.
Just around +1, and we're not budging all that much. I wish I had better news, but our guaranteed high is only 2 degrees today.
Really?
And we've got, just not too much longer of winter around here in the
decided it's
GTA
getting all day. You're a
next
fucking
weekend,
liar.
but certainly it's going to be feeling like winter for the next couple of days. We're clear today and tomorrow, but flurries in the forecast quite a bit this week ahead.
What about this
Enjoy the
weed
sunshine today,
stuff?
just bundle
We're
up
going to
your
keep us
guaranteed high
dry and all
degrees.
this shit.
680 News Time, 8:32.
Warm. I thought the clouds were going to keep us warm.
It's an earlier start to the day for many as we jumped our clocks forward 1 hour to daylight saving time.
They have
The
some
sleep
more than that
experts and
to tell
police
us.
are reminding everyone to be extra careful out there as losing that
Supposed
hour
to
can have a
regularly
significant
when it's
impact
okay
on
to
us
hit
both
kids
physically
and
and mentally.
run away.
680's Michelle Morton joins us live with the latest. Michelle.
Christine, some Canadians may be feeling this way after the clocks jumped ahead.
Well, this is all we get today. Yeah. They were talking about Black Lives Matter and fascism on BBC here. Then they changed the subject as soon as we got online.
The bill passed the legislature with unanimous support, but still needs Quebec and New York State to scrap time change as well. Experts say you usually feel the effects of time change the Monday after the shift. You'll see it in people's performance and productivity the week after as well. Toronto police are asking drivers, though, going behind the wheel to be careful. A Duke University sleep doctor says evidence shows there are higher numbers of fatal car accidents, heart attacks, and strokes, and it takes effect on people's mental health. Sleep expert Dr. Yvette Liu says to help ease into the time change, go to bed and wake up earlier on the weekend. Try to wake up and go to bed every night around the same time, and avoid lights before it's time to shut your eyes.
Go to bed at the same time, but the time is changing. That was a great explanation of what
Radio 680 News at 8:34. Toronto is shutting down its COVID-19 vaccine booking portal to make way for the province's
target audience is all sitting at home.
Those 80 and older will have until 8 tonight to book an appointment through the city's site. It will stop accepting registrations at 8 tonight, as we just mentioned, to prepare for the launch of the Ontario-wide portal tomorrow. Retired General Rick Hillier, the head of the province's vaccine task force, says they are already anticipating potential issues with the launch. He is reminding everyone who is not a part of the priority group to stay off the site. For more details on how to register either with the city or province's portal, head to our website, 680news.com.
And Premier Doug Ford will provide an
because
update
you
on
looking at the site is going to
vaccination plan at Queen's Park this morning. Ford will be joined by Health Minister Christine Elliott, Solicitor General Sylvia Jones, and retired General Rick Hillier. The update is expected to get going at around 10:30 this morning.
It is music's biggest night, and Canadian artists are for a variety of Grammys. 680's Mitch Burke joins us live with what you...
That's 2 fucking hours away. You can do it on Friday or Saturday. You can do it on Sunday. That's helpful. That's my pet dog, Mouse.
Coveted gramophones are up for grabs.
So HMV stands for His Master's Voice. I'll just leave it at that.
This year, a bold statement.
When I got there, they were still pushing me around, and I was just mumbling under my breath.
Stabbed them.
And they were just getting mad at everything I did. So they handcuffed me again, put me in a little cage before I went to my wooden bed. It was an ordeal, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's all good.
You get arrested in the 1890s?
You got a good attitude about things. It sounds like maybe these cops were a little too authoritarian. Maybe they're getting burned out, with all of the people they confront during COVID.
He's already got an excuse for it. Oh, they're getting burned out because of COVID.
I mean, there were missteps probably on both sides, but the way they handled things, I wasn't read my rights. And
you're in Canada.
They never got arrested. Although it felt like it.
Well, yeah, I guess being in jail, having to drop your shorts, that's part of your uniform. The boots and the shorts, you have to take those off.
When they made me take my underwear off, I really felt naked.
Right, you're the semi-naked cowboy, but now you've lived up to the advanced billing. We have the naked cowboy, a.k.a. Robert Burke, on the line with us. So you're down in Florida. This is something that you do as a rule every year. I guess it's Bike Week in Daytona, so you were down for that. And but now you find yourself in Siesta Key, in the Keys. Tell me...
Go ahead, sorry.
They broke your guitar as well in the arrest?
Well, she didn't do it intentionally, but
he's not intended to
handcuff me, put me against the car. Then a female officer came over, a little stocky and aggressive type, and like every single thing I said, trying to be flattering, was unflattering coming from me, I guess. I don't know. So she got a little upset with me. I don't know. It just was what it was. And then, like I said, I had my phone in my boot, and when I realized they're really going to take me out of there, I'm like, well, my wife has to have my phone from my boot. And she said, no, don't talk to your wife. He's being arrested. I'm like, I'm not being arrested. You haven't read me my rights. She needs to take my phone. I'm just looking out for her. Do whatever you want to me. But she's got to have my phone. And when my wife was trying to get my phone, she threw me against the car. She twisted me around like a pretzel. She was stronger than she looked. And in that scuffle, my guitar broke in half. There's a lot of funny videos on thing where I'm like, you broke my effing guitar. And then when I finally realized it was just funny. I I kept getting knocked around, and I just kept getting a little more agitated.
So who was taking the videos? Were they tourists?
Well, they took them about 15 minutes to get me in the car.
So this is going to be...
Taylor Broad, City News. The Maple Leafs...
Just involuntarily putting money in the guitar. I mean, I said, I don't ask for money, so, you know, it was like a bogus charge that led to another charge that was more legitimate, but again, we already have an attorney. He's already got to wipe off that criminal, that little, it's just a misdemeanor.
What are you doing in Florida? I thought you were doing that shit in New York.
File a civil suit and take their pants off them. You know? I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not that aggressive, but I mean,
but are you going to file a civil suit? I guess for I don't know, what would the charge, or what would the actual?
I'm not. My attorney is. It's
you're right. Okay.
For an assault. It's got unlawful arrest, assault. It'll be the kind of thing that'll allow panhandlers, or how you say, impoverished people who need money to go in front of the stores where everybody is wonderful and successful, and at least give them a chance to try to ask for money without being thrown in to a jail cell where they don't have the resource. I don't know. I have a different perspective on that, man. I usually say, get these homeless people
out of here. You pick up a gun, start selling drugs, them pussies will shut up real quick.
Hell in there.
Right. So they were treating you like a common vagrant, even though they didn't recognize your stature as the naked cowboy from Times Square down Florida way. I guess they just wanted to flex their muscles. Anyway, on that note, you got, what? I mean, are you coming back to New York City at all, or are you just riding out the winter like a lot of
cops in the world down there?
No. This is just, I left, I don't know, I left I mean, I took 3 days to get here. I was in Daytona Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now I'm here Monday, Tuesday. I'm here till Thursday. I'm going to drive back to Daytona and do it again Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This time I'm just going to cover the money hole, and that way there'll be no disputing it whatsoever. I'm not taking money. What?
That's the sound of Tim Hortons Roll Up to Win, because this year, every roll wins. So you could win coffee, or donuts, or a Fairmont Hotel getaway, or an all-new Volkswagen Taos. Play today on the Tim Hortons app. No purchase necessary, ends April 4th. Terms apply. Visit
those sort of hiding in plain view concerns that we're going to have, because we don't have to go very far when you talk about those kinds of numbers, 22,000, where there's probably somebody we know who's suffering in plain view that we're not aware of, just because they have had to deal with their grief in a very unusual way during COVID-19.
You know, Dave, I think that's an excellent.
And this is where it's all pathology. It's all pathological. This is where the sociopaths pretend to know about how to emote with other humans. They're going to tell us how to do it.
And we want to help you make it, no matter what your finances are like. Northwood Mortgage, 416-969-8130. Or visit us online at northwoodmortgage.com. License 10349. Nothing says I love you.
The best damn mother. No, she adds extra shit that's not in the fucking batter. I'm sure of it.
Or you can have the good side of the couch for movie night. Or I'm going to totally spoil you on a Wednesday, just because.
So are you saying if I do those things, then I don't need to get you an engagement ring?
Oh, no. You definitely still do.
What side's the good side? That's my off-the-top response. It's the second time I almost said it. But there's another cut of this ad where he says it.
Now in Bond, Scarborough, and Mississauga.
SICKLY News Time, 8:41. It's time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Keeping an eye on your drive this Sunday morning.
This report is brought to you by Mr. Lou. There's nothing to report out on any of the major routes this morning. However, just looking
requested
outside,
by Hangouts, requested by Push Quiet.
It doesn't look like it's enough to really impact your commute, though. We have no collisions, no delays, and no construction throughout the GTA. Drive into Mr. Lou open every day. Sit back with safe stay in your car service.
You just sponsored nothing. You want to sponsor the traffic report. There's no traffic brought to you, but that was useless. You better give them a second run of that ad. That wasn't right. That wasn't right.
We've got some strong winds off of Huron and Georgian Bay, and that's revving up just a few lake effect flurries. It's not really a a full-day event, but just because these winds are expected to get even gustier through the afternoon, if you're driving towards parts of cottage country, just be mindful that you may encounter a few flurries there. Other than that, it's a lot of sunshine across the region and cold temperatures. And like I said, those winds will be quite gusty out of the northwest later on today, and that's going to just keep things feeling really chilly, especially tonight as we fall to -10. We have a wind chill of
emergency
-15,
calls
so Monday
on.
morning is
I
quite
bet
cold,
you
although
can't make
it
an
should be bright
emergency
and
call with
sunny.
this phone.
We will have some flurries Monday night down to -7. The guaranteed high for today, 2 degrees.
680 News Time, 8:43. Smiling at your neighbor is no longer the
that's refrigerator temperature. You have to keep it between 0 and 4 degrees. It's digital, you just set it to 2.
Communicate a little easier during this time. We get more from 680's Vanessa Doban.
Dr. Lorianne Jenstad with the UBC School of Audiology and Speech Sciences suggests several strategies to break through the face mask barrier.
Audiology and speech science. This is why you're fucking
useless. Hand
useless.
gestures and rephrasing what we're trying to say.
We have this kind of rule that speak 10% louder, 10% slower, which just gets across the idea
what is that
you want to
exactly?
speak a little bit clearer, a little bit louder, but not in such a way that's really going to distort what you're trying to say.
Jenstad says another tip is to try to exaggerate facial expressions with the part of your face that is visible. I'm Vanessa Doban.
Again,
On 680
sociopaths
News, we'll have a check of the top
telling
stories in
us
sports in just 60
how to
seconds.
pretend anymore.
680 News Time, 8:44.
Okay, you know what? That was really good, but I just need you to try to
Exaggerate
roll
what you're already doing.
HSBC is offering a low
That's
mortgage
great.
rate.
That's great.
It's one
That's
of
fucking useless.
It's one of Canada's lowest mortgage rates.
even lower.
Get 0.99% APR on a 5-year
Everything you got
variable.
for us. You're fucking serious.
Everybody must have their day.
Oh.
You know, and draw them out of their
We
isolation.
don't have like a Sunday morning quiz show or
Downgrade
some
everybody's system
bullshit.
so we can move into that space. Yoga Nidra offers you the opportunity to
Oh, fuck off.
improve your sleep, alleviate focus, and just create more presence within your life.
Are there any practices that are collateral to Yoga Nidra that you think might be useful?
What do you mean by collateral?
Well, like in addition to doing Yoga Nidra, you would benefit from doing X or Y.
So by doing a Yoga Nidra practice, you are able to help release any stress and anxiety that you may have, especially these days.
Do you find that people like start at Yoga Nidra and then transition into the more physical forms of yoga, or vice versa?
Well, I can't hear your ass.
We lost an hour of sleep, but we get more
I
daylight.
didn't lose
But
nothing,
officials are reminding
Robo.
everyone to be careful as we adjust to daylight saving time. There is usually an increase in mental health issues as well as car accidents. Toronto is shutting down its COVID-19 vaccine booking site tonight to make way for Ontario's site and call center tomorrow. Premier Doug Ford is also expected to provide an update on the province's vaccination plan at 10:30 this morning. Canadian artists could take home a significant amount of hardware at the Grammys.
So all the different
Weekend is
colors on my
boycotting the event
leg.
after feeling stumped by the Recording Academy. The show gets going at 8 p.m. Coming up after
Which one's
sports,
you gonna
one
tell us
expert is
that?
concerned about how pandemic isolation is affecting the
The
immune
whole,
system of children.
the whole reason the cable company owns radio stations is for the people that don't want to pay for cable. All you use it for is to tell us to fucking get cable.
From Sportsnet 590 The Fan, here is Rob Wong. The Maple Leafs played the worst of their 3 games.
Fuck's sakes.
Relationship, and he had 12 felonies, 12 pending against him. And when approached by the police, they cut a deal. We'll drop all the felonies. We want you to testify against Herb Alford. And there we were. I mean, that's how we ended up where we were. So, John, you know, the crazy thing is from day one, Herb said, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and people come and they say, you know, they're telling the wrong story, and, you know, I was defending myself, and they put themselves there. His only story from day one, even before I got hired with the police department, was I wasn't there. I was at Hertz renting a car, and that's where you need to go. That was his story to the police. That was his story to me, and we went to extraordinary efforts to try to collaborate that, despite Hertz, you know, there's what I would call unbelievable obstruction that led to his incarceration.
Hey, Jamie White's
Don't you love that when
lawyer with
companies
White
you're
Law
paying
and
money to
counsel
for
to
some random
this
reason
gentleman
go
in
off on you, try to get you fucked
Herbert
over with the
Alford.
cops?
Now, Jimmy, you've handled some pretty heavy cases, including the Flint water crisis case, also with the U.S. Olympic gymnastics coach Nasser, that whole scandal. But you're claiming that this one, hands down, was the most frustrating case you've ever handled. How so?
It was. Well, I'll tell you why. Because, you know, we have our tools in our belt, but I didn't have any tool to force those records out of Hertz. I did everything legally I could. We issued the subpoenas. We held them in contempt. I mean, it literally boiled down to, like, my only option was to crash a window and pull the records myself physically, which obviously wasn't an option, but that's where I was with this.
Not an option.
You know, so it was very, very frustrating. And I think a lot of people across the board thought that we were wasting our time, you know, before the receipt.
You're entitled to the records and they're yours. You have the right to access them, and they're locking you out unlawfully.
At the end of the day,
you change the locks on my door, I'm entitled to kick the fucking door down. It's my door.
You know, to the effort possible to address
this is your lawyer. You're fucking retarded.
That he would spend the rest of his life in prison, and that's exactly what happened. He was convicted, and, you know, at 43 years old, he was sentenced to 30 to 60 years in jail, and he would have spent the rest of his life in prison. So, you know, that's why it was frustrating, because the tools in the belt just didn't work. And I think there's a lot of blame to go around for that.
But you knew then that this
the tools in the belt
would have had some kind of a record of the transaction. You believed your client, Mr. Alford, and this would have exculpated him, and yet you couldn't get your hands on it. I don't understand how that could be. I mean, couldn't they be compelled to produce something? I mean, was it a case that they were in Chapter 11 at the time that maybe became a complicating factor?
No, they were not in Chapter 11 at the time, and we did. We filed, so the first...
What, you always got a fucking excuse?
There were 3 attempts. You know,
always got one ready.
Demand for discovery, and anybody that's familiar with the law knows that when you file an initial demand, it just basically asks for everything. We got more granular and asked for the specifics initially. I issued a subpoena, which is just as authoritative as any other subpoena, and it crickets, nothing. So
you spent too much time on Facebook,
and I said, you know, we need a subpoena signed by you. Maybe this will get their attention. This is Hertz. Like, they're not going to ignore a subpoena from the court. Crickets. So then we went into what you're describing. You know, we need these guys in court. Somebody has to show up and respond to this. You know, it's one thing to say we don't have the stuff. It's another thing to be the ghost on it. So we went through that process, and initially the court, and when we had our first hearing, I asked them to be held in contempt, where they could be, you know, thrown in jail and, you know, held liable civilly, and so on and so on. He was reluctant. You know, he ordered them to appear within 14 days. He said, I don't want to hold them in contempt, but I want them here in 14 days. Nothing. Crickets. Then we went further and filed another motion to hold them in contempt. And at this point in time, he did do exactly that. But he also said, we're moving forward with this trial. So, you know, there comes a point in time, and I guess, you know, I don't want to suggest the court was out of line, because anybody that's done this work, you know that people accused of crime, it's not unheard of to say, there's another guy, right? There's another guy in the parking lot, and he was there. You can't hold up the process for years waiting on that other guy to be produced. But with a company of the stature of Hertz, you would think that those concerns could be addressed by show up, tell us what happened, and so on. They didn't do that, and he was convicted and went to prison. He'd already been in jail for a couple of years, you know, waiting for this process. And then
already been in jail a couple of years.
Jamie, do you think there was a racial component to this?
I can already tell you.
You know, and I'm looking forward to getting into discovery with Hertz. You know, they are in bankruptcy, which unfortunately is going to delay that process. But I do.
It's funny because they have more copies of the records floating around than ever before.
2 things occur, John. Either this is how they handle everything they do legally, right? They ignore every subpoena for everybody across the board. Or I think the more likely outcome is going to be that they looked at this case and saw that there was a man charged with murder from a side of town with lack of resources, African American, and this was not. We don't have time for this. And you know, we will see. I mean, they're either the most incompetent legal organization, you know, corporation, legal organization in the planet, or they identified this as being something that they just weren't going to monkey with.
5 years it cost your client in jail and convicted of murder. So what are the damages you're seeking here in this case? I mean, when's the case against Hertz going to court, if ever?
hard to put a dollar amount on, a day in the Michigan State maximum security prison. I'm from this state. My dad was actually a warden, and I can tell you that, there's no dollar amount that I would spend one day in Michigan prison. But with that said, we are asking for money damages. We believe a jury is going to send a message, and we hope they do. And in addition to asking for money damages, we're going to ask for non-money damages. We want Hertz to participate in our community from an educational point of view and make sure that nothing like this ever happens again. And we want to send a message through money damages to other corporations. If you want to come in our community and take money from our citizens and treat them like garbage when their life is on the line, you should think twice, especially in light of court orders requiring you to produce documents that could literally save a man's life. So we're hoping to send a message. We certainly want to make Mr. Alfred whole, and we're hoping to maybe ask Hertz to kick in a little bit.
That should happen with car rental companies.
Their comments so far are very discouraging, John. They're talking about they got their technical glitches and all of that. I'm going to tell you that's nonsense. I just ran through the chronology with you, and we didn't even have a hiccup of a response from these guys. So the idea that they were working through it and ultimately had technology in 2018 that allowed them to recover a PDF file that my 10-year-old could find is just nonsense and, quite frankly, offensive.
That's Jamie White of White Law, representing Herbert Alford, who spent 5 years in jail because the Hertz car rental company couldn't find the receipt that would clear him of murder. That's going to do it. That's a wrap for the Oakley Show Weekend Edition. Hope you listen in live weekday afternoons from 3 to 6, right here at Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Insightful, engaging, intelligent.
Though days after the pandemic began last year, the NCAA tournament is back. Most of the action taking place in Indianapolis. Lots of protocols in place. The players do essentially bubble in their hotels between games. The profit reveal is tonight that after 6 p.m. Tuesday, any school that can't field a team due to COVID protocols cannot be replaced. Their opponents will just simply advance. The NCAA deciding that as long as the team has 5 players healthy and eligible, they can play. A tweaked schedule means the first 4 will be on Thursday, with a loaded first round of games coming Friday and Saturday. So get your bracket ready. I'm Simon Bennett.
Coming up in just 60 seconds, we'll have the 680 News Business Report with Mike Ethel. 680 News Time, 8:55.
Directly connecting you to the subway and to the future of condo living. The Gloucester on Yonge by Concord. Located in a prime downtown.
You don't like to see what I'm doing before you start trying to interrupt it. You just shatter as many. You see the pathology of the same.
These days, people want their dollars to go further. Well, if your dollars happen to be in your mobile phone,
you saw me reach for the thing. I'll start dumping. You don't know what controls them in to interfere with it.
I don't even know anyone who's had COVID-19, and it's not like I'm at risk. We don't see many people just
vaccines was questioned in the West, and China hit back. Sinovac was much safer than the UK's AstraZeneca vaccine, some reports said, and claims that the Pfizer and Moderna shots were risky were boosted by state media and officials.
In the UK, Professor Philip Howard of the Oxford Internet Institute was watching China's vaccine narrative unfold.
The thing that they have learned is that the goal of a large misinformation campaign isn't to plant one counter-narrative, but to plant multiple counter-narratives. So suddenly, over the course of a week, 10,000 new accounts will appear, putting out one particular kind of story. They won't have pictures in them, they'll have numbers instead of names, and there's just a different scale. They try to do things overnight.
This was more like one of the Kremlin's anarchic disinformation campaigns. Remember, this is about scientifically proven Western vaccines with potentially life-threatening consequences if the rumor spreads and people are too afraid to have an injection in the UK and Europe. Professor Howard has found astonishing evidence of how Chinese vaccine stories have been amplified around the world and have made their way into all our homes.
Over the last 6 months, articles by Chinese state media outlets have been touching upon vaccines.
All Chinese media is state media.
Tweeted more than 100,000 times on Facebook and Twitter.
State media.
These are articles that produce millions of engagements,
BBC,
millions of
state
likes,
media.
hundreds of thousands of comments. So people in the West are engaging with this.
This is a shortwave feed for
whilst vaccine misinformation can have an immediately destructive effect, there is one way that China might try to shape the world narrative in a profound manner, with a technology that could cause a global split in everything we see and do online. At Oxford Information Labs, Emily Taylor believes Beijing might be creating its own alternative internet, a complete rebuilding from the ground up, the creation of its own competing cyberspace, what some call the Splinternet.
This is not about improving the existing in a compatible and interoperable and open way.
Can you point out that they're completely firewalled from the rest of the world? No, you're not going to mention that.
A different architecture. It appears to be that it would be government-controlled operators who would be able to look at the granular level of different messages and throw people off the network if necessary. It might present an opportunity to manage civil unrest or other contentious incidents. The new architecture that is being proposed by China would enable internet shutdowns much more readily.
The pandemic has seen us bombarded with these contested versions of reality, state-sponsored narratives that seep into our lives
bombarding me with how I'm being lied to, and I'm lying.
Russia led the way, but China's potential for influence is far deeper and long-lasting. If Russian disinformation is like a spell of bad weather, China's is more like permanent climate change. You're likely to see much more of it.
Right, because we've seen that.
That's all from assignment.
So the world is still heating up at the same rate it's been heating up for 10,000 years.
With Jim Booth.
This is the BBC World Service.
Go down to India, interview people who burn tires all day for no reason. Don't even mention the sandals.
We're hearing from people whose lives have followed an extraordinary path during the pandemic. I work for almost
you got people working barefoot in construction, and you're burning the tires.
Oh, you're mad. As we can OS conversations, resilience during a year of the pandemic. Today at 14 GMT.
As all sex offenders are, particularly child pornographers and child molesters.
And in an hour, we join Willem.
Digging in and online, on radio, on TV.
You're trying to interrupt the script that's not running.
Don't just know the story.
I just told you that 2 minutes ago. You didn't believe
This is CFMJ Global News Radio 640 Toronto, a Chorus Entertainment company. You're listening to Global News Radio 640 Toronto. This is Global News at 9 o'clock.
From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Emily Jabeski. Canada's national police and spy agencies are taking notes from Britain as they look to improve how intelligence is handled. British intelligence service MI5 and counter-terrorist policing authorities conducted a review following the 2017 terrorist assaults in Manchester and London. The RCMP and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service approached their British counterparts to study their findings. A review of Canadian practices resulted in 76 recommendations, including enhanced cooperation and information sharing in national security probes.
Paramilitary force.
Scotiabank's chief economist says British Columbia is poised to see a strong recovery in the tourism sector once vaccines are widespread. Jean-Francois Perrault says the COVID-19 pandemic hit restaurants, hotels, and other tourism-related businesses hardest, but many Canadians are sitting on pandemic savings, and there's strong pent-up demand for travel and leisure.
So it's simply, thinking about essentially what individuals miss most about their pre-COVID life, and whether they're able to finance that or pay for that. And of course, they probably will.
there's a minority of people that keep talking about this common delusion they have. Everything changed with
as new
COVID.
cases of
We're all being
COVID-19 have
affected this way
soared
and
in
that way.
recent
You're telling
days.
me how I feel.
Reporter Julia McFarland says much of the country will be placed under tougher lockdown restrictions again tomorrow in an effort to slow the spread of the virus.
The Italian health minister has said that a national vaccine program and tough restrictions should cause COVID-19 case numbers to improve by late spring, despite a steady rise in infections. Officials have warned the highly contagious.
Said that last spring. We're a year into this. You're now repeating month per month exactly what you said a year ago. January, February, March. You're repeating
inevitable surge.
Same shit.
Senior U.S. officials are preparing to visit American allies in East Asia to discuss the worrying lack of contact with North Korea. President Biden's administration has been trying to speak to Pyongyang since last month with no reply. Washington is reviewing its approach to North Korea following President Trump's failure to persuade the country to get rid of its nuclear weapons. The police in London have defended their decision to break up an unauthorized vigil for a woman, Sarah Everard, who was allegedly kidnapped and murdered by a policeman. They cited coronavirus restrictions. One widely shared image showed officers pinning a woman to the ground. There's been fierce criticism of the police. Jess Phillips from the opposition Labour Party is the shadow domestic violence minister.
I think that the police got it wrong at every single turn. The police did not try and find a way for a peaceful protest, not a protest actually, a vigil, a moment. They did not try and find a way to work with women who are sad and angry and upset. There are a million ways that could have been organised, but the police put their foot down.
And again, you're kissing ass with the same false narrative. You're all a bunch of separate individuals at the same place in time. You're not a gathering.
Face new charges of propaganda against Iran. A week after she completed a 5-year jail term.
They told you you were a gathering. Oh, yes, you're a gathering, Mr. White Man, sir.
Described it as a cruel and disgraceful ordeal. Caroline Hawley reports.
All you people keep letting them push
Gary
you
Ratcliffe,
around.
who's suffering from PTSD, had been extremely nervous about today's proceedings. The hearing in front of the same judge who sentenced her in 2016 lasted little more than 20 minutes. Her lawyer said afterwards that the atmosphere in court had been calm. He presented her defence, and he hoped she'd be acquitted because she'd already served 5 years on a more serious charge. But the lawyer later told Mrs. Zaghari Ratcliffe that he wasn't sure what level of sentence she could expect. Her husband, Richard, says the continuing uncertainty is torturous, that she remains a hostage, held as leverage in negotiations with the UK.
News from the BBC. Government scientific advisors in Ireland have recommended halting the rollout of the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine temporarily as a precaution.
Revolves around you white people.
Responding to a report by Norway's health authorities that 4 adults had developed serious blood clots after getting the jab.
Oh, you said it was
the Irish advisors stressed there was no proven link between the cases.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, it was 30. Only one died. Okay, wait a second.
The director of the hospital in Jordan, where coronavirus
and one died.
And oxygen supplies ran out, has been detained. He and several other officials have been questioned about the deaths of 7 people at the hospital in the town of Salt. The deaths sparked protests in a number of cities and prompted the resignation of the health minister.
Why would you give that woman a
Officials at the Ministry of Education in Afghanistan say they're investigating a recent statement
from the Director of Education in the capital Kabul,
which banned girls
over the age of 12 from
singing at public gatherings.
All the logic and plans you keep telling us how it should work, you keep doing the opposite.
Many Afghan girls shared video clips of themselves singing. There are
concerns
about the possible impact of a future peace deal with the Taliban on the rights of women and girls. Under the Taliban, girls were denied an education. A number of marriage bureaus in China have made the unusual decision to open this Sunday to allow couples to marry on what some consider an auspicious day. Michael Bristow has the details.
Part of today's day sounds like a Chinese phrase meaning for a lifetime. In China, many people like important events to take place on days considered lucky.
Yeah, you're going to
and good Sunday morning to everyone out there. Thank you so much for making us part of your weekend. The time is 9:05 here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I am Chris Creston, and I'm joined as always by Kelvin, the money guy. You can always visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's
Grammy history.
This dough is for their second dish, millet momos, or stuffed dumplings, filled with fresh ingredients from two tins.
From what? Oh.
Congratulations, Xiaohong had a baby boy.
Really? Because if it was a girl, she'd be stupid, bad at math, and you have to tell her over and over not to read.
Hello and welcome to Studio Plaza. I'm Lin Jing. Coming up in this hour, political advisors propose including abandonment of pets in personal social credit records. Also, hotels in East China's Hangzhou will use chips to supervise cleaning work. Aren't you excited about it? Yeah, very interesting topics. And also, we've got some cool stuff for you. You can listen to us live on ChinaPlus.cri.cn, where you can find us on Apple Podcast by searching for Studio Plus. We're on Facebook too. So make sure you leave us a comment on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And now to kick off this hour, here's a song.
Bye.
Going now.
I'll take you. I'll be back soon.
There's another problem I have with that system too. You want to? Yeah, I'm opening my mouth. If you want to keep track of that, it's not each individual item you got to keep track of.
Qui cerca sempre di adattare alla natura, cercando come una circolarità. E questo è molto bello. Questo me lo porto a casa.
By adapting to nature and restoring their natural ecosystems, 28,000 Bhutanese farmers like Trippz are not only growing more resilient crops,
Only the no face, give up, they don't know I exist. Got my
Keep it up, Jomo. Keep it up. Keep it up, Jomo. Keep it up, Jomo. You're the one playing the game. I'm not trying to like do or not do anything with your dumb ass. You're the one that thinks there's some sort of relationship between us. You're not. You're nobody. You're a dead body in the ditch. I'm just walking by like it's nothing.
Fresh out the get my back, don't you send my west side, I'm getting back on with the clickers, no tell what I do, then get my fucking gas on, mash on, back, fucking no, get your ass on, that's all I read, no defense, no chases, no lead, no cases, no bled, no cases, no dead, no traces.
Keep it up, Jomo. Keep it up. Yeah, keep it up. Keep it up. You are a child molester, or you wouldn't get angry at the fact that I called out child molesters. Take it upon yourself to attack me all fucking Keep it up, Chomo. I was looking at that.
सब्जी खरीद के खाते थे, बचाव करके खाना पड़ता था। खराब है तो अपन घर का अपना खुद हाथ से उगा के खाते हैं तो ताजी सब्जी मिलती है।
You are fucking stupid. My eyes aren't closed. I'm looking directly at the screen. I know you've got the Facebook app to edit photos. Wow, that's so amazing. They've been putting it on Dell computers since the 90s. You're so advanced. You're so advanced. You're the righteous pedophile. Okay, so I pressed that button 8 fucking times. Keep it up. Keep it up, Chomo. Keep it up, Chomo. Keep it up. You see, every time I put they're hitting it, every time I blink, and they're only getting it 1 out of 10 times. Keep it up. Keep it up. And every time I speak, I know, you talk too much. We know. I talk too much because I point out who the sex offenders are in my neighborhood to the old ladies, and that pisses you off. And that pisses you off. I'm trying to fill 50 minutes with 25. You're making it easier, stupid. Why don't you fuck off and kill yourself? Go kill yourself, Tromo. Leave it up. Yeah, I'm looking at shit, but my eyes are closed. I can see me freeze, and then the eyes close. Okay, so what are you proving? What are you doing? Are you fucking done yet? Yeah, every time I reach for the controls, shit goes ape shit. Keep it up. Every time I reach over, keep it up. I've pressed one button in the last 5 minutes, dog. One button in the last 5 minutes. Okay, so every time you think I'm about to press a button, you dump on my router. So what? You're proving you're pathological with your sex offenses against children. You're pathological. You're trying to outthink me. You're trying to out-psychoanalyze me. You've been doing it for years. I've been killing sex offenders for years. You people have been doing this since the 80s. You realize how far back this goes. Keep it up. Keep it up. Keep it up, Jobo.
In 1950,
Keep it up, Jobo. It's the pedo mob. Keep it up. Everybody can see both my hands. Everybody. Yep, skip the music over and over. That's good. So here's both my hands. Here's me way over the fuck there. Well, I'm supposed to believe that every time I press a button, I'm going to break down your pathology. I'm going to break down your pathology. So every time I go to use a controller or a button, I'm overloading the system, right? Here's the problem. I'm not touching the mouse or the keyboard. It goes ape shit. I put my hand over here and stuff. See? Now why don't you make the CDs? Why don't you make the MP3 CD? Come on. Skip like a CD. Mix some AM static in there and select whatever track you want to hear. So just press that. Yep. Eyes closed. I'm looking at stuff. My eyes are closed. I can see it happen.
India.
I can see it happen as it's happening, but my eyes are closed, right? What are you telling me,
Members will be making their way to the country's 2 Antarctic research stations.
This 10 minutes, dipshit. My eyes are still wide open. I know you're gonna freeze it and show me my eyes closed. Wow. Wow. What does that accomplish? What message are you sending me, pussy? I'll go burn down your grandmother's house right now. Hey, pussy.
Nearly all of Antarctic
Hey, pussy. I'll go burn down your grandmother's house right now. That ain't no joke. Done? He's not kidding. He will go burn down your grandmother's house. What did I do over here? What did I do over here? I burned down your fucking grandmother's house, didn't I? You want to keep this up? You want to keep this up? Every time my arm goes over here, oh, my hand is that's a little weird. I'm supposed to think I'm jamming up my own system here. I'm too fucking stupid of a nigger to use computers. We built this shit while your people were still shitting where they fucking sleep and drinking water. They still do it. Oh, that's the things you say about them. Are you done, you fucking child molester? Every time I reach for it, it's gonna log up just magically. I've got an hour and a half to kill, bro. I've got an hour and a half to kill. Why don't you cut the audio off? Cut the audio off. If you cut the audio off, I start over.
On weather has not yet been well explained. The Russian team.
What's your pathology with my mouth? So if you cut the audio off, that's not what I meant, stupid. Eyes closed. Okay. Eyes closed. Okay. Eyes closed. Okay. Eyes closed. And you keep. Okay. Eyes closed and you keep trying to freeze. Okay. So you're obviously a fucking homo. You're a homo showman. We've been at this 10 minutes. Okay, so you keep it up. You keep showing me my eyes closed, and you keep trying to freeze. You keep trying to freeze my mouth open. You're obsessed with staring at my mouth. Yeah, see? I couldn't prove it any more than what you're doing right now. So what? Keep it up. Turn off the fucking audio. Not the SoundCloud player, dumbass. You're just fucking doing a denial of service on the port users. I can still hear the audio. I know, your brother told you, here, you do this for a while, right? Your brother said, come play with this for a little while, right? And you think you're doing something smart. I'm gonna burn down your grandmother's house with her in it, bro. He's not kidding. Go ask the cops what I did in the house over here. Oh, you're gonna keep doing this. Your little